I was kind of like, oh, this guy's going to be insane. Like, he's going to be absolutely nuts. And I went to sit down for lunch with him, and I was like, he's so normal and nice and funny. What the hell? It's like all of his darkness comes out through his art. So I felt really comfortable around him right away, but I truly did think I was meeting a bit of a psychopath.
오늘은 송곳니, 랍스터, 킬링 디어, 더 페이보릿 등을 연출한 요르고스 란티모스 감독님을 소개해드리고자 합니다. 감독님의 수상 경력은 화려하고 매우 많아서 다 열거하기가 귀찮습니다. 감독님의 영화들은 종종 초현실적인 세계관, 다크한 유머, 유아틱한 인물들 등 독창적인 방식으로 인간 사회의 어두운 이면을 탐구하는 걸로 유명합니다.
Just think as an animal you'll have a second chance to find a companion. But even then you must be careful. You need to choose a companion that is a similar type of animal to you. A wolf and a penguin could never live together. Nor could a camel and a hippopotamus. That would be absurd. Think about it. I understand this discussion is a little unpleasant for you, but it is my duty to prepare you psychologically for all possible outcomes. Now, have you thought of what animal you'd like to be if you end up alone?
Yes, a lobster.
그리스 출신의 요르고스 란티모스 감독님은 헬레닉 시네마 앤 텔레비전 스쿨 스타브라코스에서 영화 공부를 했다고 하는데요.
I was fortunate enough that I started early on to direct commercials, and I experimented a lot and learned a lot technically. But on the actors side of things, I was also fortunate enough, although I never intended, to direct theater, to do plays in the theater in Greece. So I was lucky enough to work in theater before I made my first feature film. Again, we're quite fortunate in Greece. You have quite a bit of time to work before you stage a play. We could have up to 3 months of rehearsals with the actors. It's great because you don't have to come with a preconceived notion of how the play is going to be, how you're going to stage it, what the set is going to be like. You can discover all that by working with the actors, and you can experiment and you can go to different directions and change. It was just more a learning experience on how I can get to where I want to go with the actors through rehearsals and through trying different things.
감독님의 영화들을 한 편이라도 본 사람이라면 다들 공감하실 겁니다. What the fuck? 그래서인지 인터뷰 때마다 받는 질문이
Where this idea kind of originated.
Could you please tell us how your ideas are born?
Where this bizarre idea came from.
I often start my Q&As with the question, what inspired your movie? But in this case, it really has to start with that question.
I can never answer that because it's just it's always a process. It's you think about things and situations and you observe things. And I work very closely with Efthemis Philippou, my co-writer, that we've written most of my films together. So it's always a dialogue between the two of us. Like making experiments, like being in this lab and putting all these people in these situations and see what comes out of that, and what will explode or not. And but the interesting thing is to observe that people in this film, but in reality as well, follow completely absurd rules, and nobody, you get used to it. You're educated in a certain way. Many years can go by, and people just don't question. It's like that's how it's done, and that's the way it is. And if you distance yourself from it, and I guess we're trying to have that distance by pushing things to extreme. When you distance yourself, you can realize how absurd some of the things that we consider normal are.
그래서일까요? 감독님의 영화 속 등장인물들은 나이와는 상관없이 어린아이처럼 그려질 때가 많습니다.
Who did your makeup?
We went for something dramatic. Do you like it?
You look like a badger.
Oh.
Are you going to cry? Really? Well, what do you think you look like?
Badger.
Well, a main thing is that I try not to get into analyzing the script or the parts or motivation or past or present, or we don't get into such discussions. And if someone tries to, I try to avoid it.
Yeah, wasn't there an exercise that Olivia Colman said that you did to let go of the rational understanding of the text?
Yeah, the whole 3 weeks was that.
Yeah.
It was just games and exercises, and it was very physical, the whole thing, and it didn't really make any sense if you're looking at from the outside.
요르고스 란티모스 댄스
There was a scene that I was still didn't really know that well, and then Yorgos would ask me to hum whilst the person I was reading with would say their lines, and then I had to imagine force fields around the room and like sculpt them and things, and sculpt the person I was reading with, but not let it affect how I would do. It was one of those ones where you walked out and you were like, I did everything, and I don't know if they're just laughing at me, but
I auditioned for Yorgos, and he had me breathe, like pant, like I was giving birth, just throughout the lines. And then there were times where I would just like take pauses in the wrong place. I think he just does this to everyone.
You need to find a process that basically enables the actors to feel free and creative, and to have the space that they can try things, they can fail, and they can feel confident and comfortable that we're all there for the same reasons. So basically you're just enabling them to go out there and be bold and not care about how they're gonna look, and especially because you haven't rationalized it, and there can be ideas that come from nowhere, and maybe they work or maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a direction which allows a lot of freedom and a lot of time to try things in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons that I don't like to use like cinema lighting, and I use natural light or practical lights, and I don't want to have a lot of equipment around. It's just me, the actors, the camera, and the sound, and we just try things and rehearse. And if something doesn't work, we change it immediately. And if we get a shot, we go to the next one right away. There's no waiting time. They stay there.
But also, your films appear to be very carefully blocked.
여기서 잠깐.
Appear to be very carefully blocked.
여기서 블로킹이란 씬 혹은 숏안에서 극적 효과를 이루기 위해 배우들의 위치, 제스처, 움직임을 카메라의 위치와 함께 계획하는 것을 일컫는 용어입니다. 이처럼 카메라와 배우가 합을 맞추어 움직이기 때문에 촬영이 다소 복잡해지고 까다로워집니다. 그렇기 때문에 즉흥적이라고 말하는 란티모스 감독님에게 이렇게 질문한 거죠.
But also, your films appear to be very carefully blocked.
No, they are, but in the end.
Yeah.
But you go through.
You're finding that together.
Yeah, you go through a process, and they are very precisely planned beforehand as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we do think a lot about how they're going to be filmed. There's a very specific plan of how the scene plays out, but I like to do all that, to be prepared, and to have created a language, a filmic language with my collaborators. But then as soon as I go on set, I never look at that. And some of it stays in your head anyway.
Yeah.
Some of it is you repeat it because you're the same person, so that's how you think, and you repeat it. But at the same time, you have the freedom to discover new things that you couldn't imagine. Sitting in a room, imagining how the shot is going to be and how the actors are going to do it. You see a take and you go like, this is never going to work.
Yeah.
Then you go into the cutting room and you discover that this is the best take, because it all has to do with what the previous shot is and what the actor did in the other shot, and where in the film it takes place. And it's really hard to have all of that in your head when you're doing one shot of one scene. You need to allow the freedom and the variation in order to be able to fine-tune performances, the story, the character during the editing process.
이런 감독님의 영화 취향도 한번 알아보겠습니다.
Oh, Mike Lee's Naked. My favorite Mike Lee film. David Thewlis is just unbelievable in it. I want to get all the Bressons. I have them in every version that exists. VHS, DVD. Now I'm collecting Blu-ray. Les Samurai. How many versions of that DVD do we have? Jean-Pierre Melville, an amazing filmmaker. So contemporary still. You watch these films and you think they were filmed yesterday. Buñuel, Verdiana, you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
I love all of Buñuel's films. I watched this film every time just before making a film. When we had a screenplay that felt complete and we're comfortable with it, then I started introducing some genre elements, maybe visually or sound-wise, but always trying to keep it, an original piece of work, which is mostly because we don't know how to do these other things. It's like we would never do a straightforward thriller or horror film. It's how we know to write and then how I know to put films together. And I enjoy, playing around with elements of other genres, but I don't think I could ever actually make a pure genre film. I definitely don't strive for realism because I don't believe in it, and I don't believe it exists in cinema. All of it is a construction, so it's just there are different approaches.
Sexual preference?
Women. However, I had one homosexual experience in the past, in college. Is there a bisexual option available?
No, sir. This option is no longer available since about last summer due to several operational problems. I'm afraid you have to decide right now if you want to be registered as a homosexual or a heterosexual.
I love things in every part of the process, and I suffer in every part of the process.
What was the toughest thing for you about The Favourite? Was there one moment that was really what things went wrong, or?
The constant part of it, trying to get everything, like Alfonso said before, you're filming something, you're doing the scene, you're probably never going to come back and do something differently, and it's going to stay there forever.
The worst is when you have a nagging feeling that something's wrong, but you can't figure out what it is, and you're sitting there going, this is my chance, I have to fix it right now. And then you have a moment where you go, oh, I got it. This is the problem, and fix it. Or if you don't,
the problem is when it comes the next day.
Next day,
next
and then
morning.
You're so
this is what I should have done.
I know, or a year later.
It can always be improved, like with anything. So you fail in certain aspects of it, you win in some others, and then the next time you try and win more and fail less, like Beckett almost said.